Now look, I know, I keep casting this Zerg player over and over and over again, but I can't help myself. His new playstyle against Terran has been absolutely fascinating to me, and today, well, we have none other than Rogue going up against the world champion of StarCraft 2. With the red SCVs, we're looking at Clem's main command center. This particular series was recently played in a $3,000 online tournament. And I heard, I haven't seen the games yet, but I heard that apparently Rogue decided to once more play Mass Overseer against Terran. So what he does is he covers the entire map with loads and loads of Overseers. He throws down a gajillion and one little, what are they called? The little changelings. And then ultimately, he puts Nidus Worms all over the map. He covers the screen to make it difficult for the Ghost to actually snipe all of the lurkers. And yeah, I'm very curious to see how Mr. Clem is going to deal with it. I can imagine that Clem is going to be maybe a little bit surprised by it, because nobody is currently playing this other than Rogue. But Clem is also known to be quite a flexible player. He's very good at handling, well, all of the different situations that he's thrown in, even though he may not have seen them before. So I'm excited to find out exactly here what ended up going down in this series. Now, map number 1 is going to be Oceanborn. Very normal map, nothing all too crazy. So I'm expecting a nice, smooth macro game from the both of them. In pretty much all the games that I've seen Rogue play, he opens up with what we consider to be a standard build order. So he opens up with very regular Zerg strategies. And I think the same can be said for Clem. He rarely goes for like a 2-base all-in or anything along those lines. Usually we will just see him playing the normal, good old, tried and true strategies. Now, since I'm a professional commentator, I apparently forgot to turn on my health bars. No worries though, I've already got them back on right now. We can actually see the progression right now on some of these units and structures that are currently building. Alrighty, so it should be a Reaper into a Factory, Marine here in a moment too. We're gonna go double Reaper. Okay, well, Clem is feeling like he's in a crazy mood. Double Reaper is actually a little strange. We don't usually see double Reaper, but some of the Terrans have been mixing this in, especially somebody like Gumiho, for example. He's been going for double Reaper every once in a while. We've seen it from some of the top tier Terrans. Usually Clem is not really somebody who will mix this in off of a single barracks. Small deviations though. Ultimately, all the roads will lead towards good old Marines in the mid-game, right? And that is ultimately what Terrans are aiming for. He can deny the third base here for quite a long time. Currently, there is no drone hiding at the bottom of the map. Sometimes Zerg players will hide it to the far bottom left-hand corner. I think actually with now the second Reaper showing up, and with an SCV patrolling the third base, right from the get-go, Clem is taking charge of the time in this game, yeah. Zerglings are not going to be able to really grab the surround here on these Reapers until they finish up the Link speed upgrade, and that one is still about a half minute or so away. Even the Queen is in a little bit of trouble. Yeah. Brenda, get back on the creep. Clem building an NG bay. He's not going to finish that one. Yeah, exactly. So you can build this for maybe like 80% of the way, and then cancel it. Get most of your money back. In the meantime, though, Rogue has already snuck out a base right over there, so the NG bay will get cancelled, and ultimately Clem is going to have to continue playing his normal follow-up. Now, the follow-up that he's going for here is a little bit different than what he normally does. Well, he's been mixing this in quite a bit. He's been playing it against the top-level players in the world, but he is going for a faster second barracks here rather than a starport. Generally speaking, you go for a starport after the third command center, but this time around, apparently, Clem is going to opt for a second barracks instead, meaning that he's going to have to wait until this Stimpack upgrade finishes up to really get more damage out on the board. He can roam the map a little bit with the Hellions and with the Reapers, but other than that, this is going to be him mostly just waiting for those upgrades to kick in. So, a little bit of a frustrating opener maybe for Rogue here, but certainly not the end of the world. He's going to be able to transition quite normally too. Now, I'm assuming it's going to be a lair into a Baneling Nest, into double upgrades. That seems to be what he does most of the time. Alternatively, Rogue also likes to play Roaches, but the time for Roaches is already in the past. I think this is going to be a lair right about right now, whenever he goes back up to 100 gas here. A lair, then a Baneling Nest, and then double Evolution Chamber. Wouldn't be surprised if he puts his Evo Chambers over here, even though I kind of hate it. Oh no, we're going to go double Evo Chamber before lair. Technically a little bit risky, Because now he won't have detection against cloaked banshees. Now, obviously, we know that this is not cloaked banshees. Did he see it? Ah, that's why. Okay, so Rogue actually saw the second barracks there with that overlord that he scooted forward. So he's cutting a tiny little corner. But he's getting away with it. Yeah, Rogue has, unironically though, started becoming really, really good again. I know that we had a bit of an Artosis meme going around in the StarCraft community for some time because Artosis considers Rogue to be the greatest StarCraft 2 player of all time. A lot of people would say that's Serral, other people would say that's Maru, maybe you have some Clem fans in there too, but he calls Rogue the greatest player of all time, and everybody's like, haha, that's kind of funny. But he's got some decent arguments. Oh my god, he accidentally targeted one of his own Marines there. Anyways, there's no denying that Rogue is really good. Now, Artosis made that call whilst Rogue was in the military, so that was a big point of debate while Rogue was in the military. Is he the greatest StarCraft 2 player of all time? I don't personally think so, but he is certainly ranked amongst the very best. I would put him in the top 3. Anyways, got a nice little attack here. The Hellbats are getting maximum value though. I think the Queens and the Reinforcing Links are gonna be able to clean this up eventually. A couple Zerglings in the meantime trying to be a nuisance on the other side of the map. Don't lose the Medevac. Boost? Okay, well, boost was not available there, but he keeps it alive with just 6 HP remaining. It shows, though, that Rogue is one of the all-time greats. Because even though he only just recently wrapped up his military service, it's only been maybe a couple months at this point, it is clear that he already has a very good understanding of the game once again, and he's been putting in the work. When he first came back, I had a look at one of his very first tournament series. It was clear that he was playing old build orders and old strategies that nobody really played anymore. It was like going back a year and a half, you know? Like, he played the strategies that used to be popular back before he went to the military. But he's already getting to the point again where he is starting to reinvent some of the strats that are normally played. Alrighty, now the follow-up here from Clem is going to be very stock standard. We've got ourselves a second factory. 4th command center should go up. There it is. In the meantime, we have a 4th hatchery here as well for Rogue, who's going to go double hatchery in the main base. So triple base here in total in the main. This is just for larva generation. So this is a little bit strange from Rogue. It probably means that he does not plan on transitioning towards, well, for example, Hydras and Lurkers and all the rest of it. This looks to me as a mass Ling Bane army. So when you think about it, Zerglings and Banelings are really cheap as far as minerals and gas goes. But Zerg has a third mechanic to worry about, and that is, of course, the larva. And Ling Bane is very expensive when it comes to larva. It's going 2-2. Do we have a infestation pit yet? Normally, when you play Ling Bane, you would go straight into an infestation pit and then straight into a hive, because you really need to get those hive tech upgrades. So he does have 2-2 coming. I would have liked to see the infestation pit a little sooner. There's a 5th base right next to where those Marines have unloaded, but Clem currently does not know about it. Barracks 6, 7, and 8 right now coming up here for the Terran player. Hot pickup there. We'll keep all of this alive. Okay, so I like this game up until this point here from Rogue. I'm not sure what the follow-up is going to be. Because if the goal is to try and go into Ultralisks, we are quite delayed. Because the 3-3 is not going to be able to start up smoothly when the 2-2 finishes. He needs to finish up a hive before he gets to those sets of upgrades. And he is not going to be able to have Adrenal Glands, Ultra Cavern, 3-3 research here anytime soon. Ghost Academy coming up for Clem. Now, I don't think you want to be playing Ghosts against somebody who's pure Ling Bane. But Clem is cruising along here. Having a good old time. Building up all of his upgrades. This is not really an army that can kill a Terran player, though. I don't think so. I mean, it's a lot of Zerg. But it's gonna fizzle out. Like, he still does not have a hive started. Yeah. So this is essentially now an army that needs to deal critical amounts of damage. Otherwise, Clem is gonna run away with the win. Wonderful defense here by Clem. Taking basically no damage. Perfect SimCity thus far, although he's gonna take some SCV losses. Still, though, This is already 4 command center here for Clem. He's got second factory kicked in. He's going to finish up 2-2 very soon. This was essentially a 2-2 all-in from Zerg, which is something we see quite a bit from Terran players, right? Where we see like a 2-2 8-rex on triple command center. I haven't seen something similar from Zerg work in a very long time. Maybe Rogue has had some success with it on the ladder, but this ain't it. He's going Hydroden right now. So he will try and go up towards the lurkers eventually, but he is now like a good 4 minutes or so behind Clem. And I don't really see Clem giving away an advantage this big. Stock-centered approach from Clem. Obviously, he plays that standard better than anybody else right now. He's actually still making Ghost here. That's kind of funny. Ghost usually very good against all the late game units, but apparently Clem deems it to be okay right now against a Zergling Baneling attack as well. He hasn't seen anything that would warrant Ghost production right now, but fair enough. Well, lurkers are gonna hit the battlefield. It's just that Clem is not gonna let his opponent breathe for that long. He really doesn't need to. Like, if Clem gives his opponent several minutes to get away with all of this, it's fine. But I would be very surprised. Clem is making the Ghost right now primarily to counter any Vipers, maybe any sort of Ultras. But I think as soon as he sees Hydras, which you may have already seen, he realizes that this is a pretty terrible situation here for Zerg. Look at the supply count. It feels like not really that much has happened. It's just Rogue's decision making here that is not really working out in his favor all too much. Now it is difficult though to kill a Zerg player when you're fighting on creep and you're playing against Ling Bane. Even with really good micro and with a really large advantage, it's not easily done. So we're gonna go Fusion Core, we're gonna go second Starport. This is Clem playing incredibly safe. Missile turrets going up around the left side of his natural expansion here too. Sensor tower going down. Rogue is struggling to max out. Clem has been maxed out for like 5 minutes now. Okay, maybe not 5. Maybe more like 2 minutes. But 5 minutes can feel like 2 minutes sometimes. That's which... No, I don't... Look, I don't want to talk about it. Anyways. Yeah, he's taking this as safely as possible. So like I said, this is from a $3,000 tournament. Clem is not here to take any chances. GG. Dynasty is going to be our second game for today. This map is considered absolutely atrocious for Zerg versus Terran. So that would probably mean that Side Delta, or Side Delta? Oceanborn is Rogue's map pick. I would be very surprised if Zerg decided to play a game against the highest ranked Terran in the world on Dynasty. So let's see what we can do over here. Action is very much so on Rogue. Generally speaking, this map is not one where you want to play a long, drawn-out macro game against Terran. But then again, this is quite a difficult map. Like, the statistics are pretty clear. This is a map that is favored for Terran. But, at the same time, there's these rich Vespian geysers, there's the golden minerals that can be mined from 2 sides. There's quite a few expansions to take across the board. This is a map where a lot of tricks are possible. So we see quite a few all-ins, for example, based around this rich Vespian geyser. Zerg can send a lot of Ravagers across quite easily. And none of that the case, though, here for Rogue so far. He's decided to just go and take the natural expansion. Now, this map, as far as the rush distance goes, is relatively short. So you can get across the map pretty rapidly. At least if you compare it to like say for example a Side Delta or an Alcyone or whatever. Like, we don't really have any tremendous maps right now, any super big maps right now in the current ladder map pool. But this is a relatively short map. Ghost River, definitely the map with the shortest rush distance, especially air to air. Dynasty though, usually it means that action is on the Zerg. Because if they play a straight-up game, right, usually Terran will just find themselves with an advantage. Now, this is a double Rex opener, but both of the barracks are inside of the main base. Normally, we see the barracks over here on the low ground. So Rogue is scouting this, and he only sees a single Rex. He may decide to take a third base here momentarily. It will be okay. His main problem is, well, he needs to get that link speed done at a reasonable time. In the meantime, Clem has decided to go for an in-base expansion. Third base going down already here for the Zerg. Oh, woo! Luckily for Clem, he like looped up that Reaper, man. That somehow slithered away. Could have sworn those Zerglings had a full surround. Nobody knows what's going on inside of the barracks. They could have just done a couple additional boosts maybe inside of the jetpacks, right? Make them jump out of the Zergling's embrace, but that is not what we're going for. Third command center right now inside of the main base too, so this is just 4 Reapers. Can Clem secure the kill on this base? He's telling Brenda to back off. Brenda, get out of here. We're busy. Okay, well, if you're gonna go this far, maybe we will just target... Yeah, he's walking the queen right now. Lovely grenades there by Clem. If he can now also secure the kill on the third base... Nah, it's not gonna happen. Metabolic boost is just about to finish up. I think Rogue needs to kill all of these Reapers in order for this game to be playable, man. Okay, well, that could have been worse. Yeah, he gets the Reapers. So losing a queen like that, though, is quite painful. He made a lot of links. Yeah, I don't like this very much for Rogue. So it's very much so momentum, right? So obviously he's not going to lose the game here anytime soon. It's just that he's got nothing to do with those Zerglings right now. Terran gets away with a very fast third command center. He's completely safe, Clem, that is. There's really nothing Zerg can really do to try and slow this down. Plus, with a queen going down, it means that either we have to skip injects or we skip creep spread. Obviously, you need to remake it, but it does make the game a little bit more difficult. Now, at least he got the Reapers. So no continued shenanigans here from Clem. But I think if he had to lose any unit, it would be those Reapers. Okay, so let's see. What can we do on the back of this? Rogue has decided to go into a Roach Warren here. No Lariat. Double gas. So this is not going to be an all-in. This will likely just be a good old macro match. A macro opener here with a Roach Warren on the back of it. Double Engineering Bay now going up right here as well for Clem. One of them in the main base, one of them in the pocket base. And he is gonna start pumping out the biological units. Okay, so Stimpack is done. I just want to highlight, by the way, that in the past, whenever we used to see a 16 Marine drop, it would hit on the other side of the map with Stimpack, 2 Medevacs, and 16 Marines at 5 minutes and 10 seconds. Clem is now doing basically an entirely different variation of the build, but with a third command center, and then starting off with 4 Reapers too. It's actually insane. Like, this build is only like 10, 15, maybe 20 seconds later, and he got so much more in the process. I was hoping that he was going to be able to get a freebie. Not quite the case, as the 4th base has not been made for Rogue yet. I actually think that's kind of like a... it's kind of a fun little game to play with yourself. Look at some of the strategies that the pro gamers are playing and try to mimic what they do. And then look at the clock as to when your move out happens. This is quite a complex Terran early game, because there's a lot going on, especially with the Reaper micro. If you're, say, like a Gold League player or so, and you think your execution is pretty good, I can almost guarantee you that your Marine follow-up is hitting at least a minute late. Like, not to be disrespectful, but that is a really easy timer to look at. Like, try and copy the exact build order, and then see the timing at which you move out on the in-game clock. You'd be surprised how fast the pro players actually get. Perfect fights here by Clem. Really lovely. Lost only 2 SCVs to those roaches. I love this here. I really like this here for Clem. Okay, so the follow-up here from Rogue is mostly a I don't want to die to stupid stuff strat. So we've got our Hydra then, we've got an Infestation Pit, we're going double upgrades here. This is very much so I don't want to die type of strategy. But it often feels to me like a delay of the inevitable. Because Clem is cruising right now. He can't really deal critical amounts of damage here to the Zerg player yet. Yeah, this is a strategy I employ in real life too. Now maybe this Ling run by can get some work in. Reinforcing Terran units though, already popping out. SCVs pulled to the fight. This is a lot of Lings going down. In the meantime, we have a fight over here too, but Siege Tanks properly positioned. Picks those units back up as the Roaches think about turning around. 8 SCVs for a big chunk of Zerglings. Now, maybe most interesting is the fact that Rogue is not doing anything about the fact that he's playing this map or the fact that he has a gold base at his disposal. He is just playing a normal game. We're going Hive, we're going Lurker Den, we're going +2 I'm assuming here in just a moment. He is playing like this is a site delta, like a very normal map. Medevac drop in the top left-hand corner. 4th command center starting up. Do we already have a second factory? No, not yet. We'll probably see the second factory here in just a moment. It is important to get that one going here pretty soon. Especially against this type of army from the Zerg, it's nice to have. But he did go for the +1 upgrade. Now, this is ultimately, though, leading towards a late game. It's a late game where I favor Terran, sure, but it's not an unplayable late game here for Zerg whatsoever. It also means that Rogue is going to get up to a point where he's going to have the opportunity to make 1,000,000 Overseers, baby! Alright, so we've got Vipers coming. Very curious to see how Clem deals with it. We've got Vipers coming. We've got the ranged upgrade coming up for the Lurkers. 2-2 is about to finish up here for Clem, who already has 8 Rex. Still only on 1 factory. Okay, that's a little curious. But let's see what we can do. Large Terran army. He wants to get in position. Vipers need to get their blinding cloud energy here to shut down those siege tanks. Look at Clem already pre-splitting the tanks. He knows that it is going to be the weapon of choice. Lurkers are out, but they don't have the ranged upgrade yet, and these type of fights are really nice for the Terran player. Look at him. When you can kill Lurkers with Marines, you know life is good. And that base is super dead. Like, not even a little bit dead. It's super dead. Yeah, sharp gameplay here. So imagine if you're 30 seconds late as a Terran. Suddenly you will be playing against the Zerg player with ranged Lurkers and with Vipers out. Right? And this is why clean execution is so important. Now Clem is finding an opportunity here where he is dealing tremendous amounts of damage. But if this fight was 30 seconds late, he gets a Viper kill there too. Life would be very tricky. In the meantime, down south, there's another medevac drop. And Clem is just murdering Rogue so far in this series. It's not even close. Rogue is by no means playing poorly, but he's not achieving anything. Yeah. Reinforcements coming in. There's 2 bases that are low in hit points. I'm sure he's got his eyes set on both of them. Looks like we had some of the Lurker spines connecting, but this is before any of those proper late game situations though. Clem is just, yeah, playing a little bit too quick. Strategically, he's just playing a better game here than Rogue. Okay, so where do we go from here? Nova is here. Maybe that's not Nova. But Clem apparently is playing with the ghost skin right now. The female ghost skin, that is. These are the ones that are like very bottom heavy. Yeah. A fan favorite skin. Anyways. Lurker numbers are still going. The gas income is not bad. Now, would you look at that? That's so weird. That is so cursed. I don't think I've ever seen any Zerg player take this base and then mine it from both sides. He's just making this hatchery mostly as a macro hatch, and then I guess also as a way to mine the rich Vespine gas. But I've got a feeling that Clem has got the scent of blood. He knows where to go. Now, one of the reasons why this map is good for Terran is because it's got a lot of choke points. So the siege tanks can be maximum... Yeah, can be very effective here. They get maximum value. Obviously, the same can be said, though, for lurkers. Now, obviously, lurkers are a much later game unit than the siege tank, but this is not an easy way to close out a game right here for Clem. Nidus network coming up. +3 missile. Researching. Rogue trying to claw his way back in. I rarely see Clem losing from this position. Because this game has been, yeah, exactly the way he's been. Oh, okay, well, that's a start. That's a start right there for Rogue. This game is going exactly the way he had planned. I want to see Mass Overseer, man. I'm hoping we're going to see some of it in this game. But it looks to me like Clem is killing his opponent before he ever gets to that point. Look at him. Yeah, nice set of lurkers you have there. It'd be a shame if something were to happen to it. This is by no means a rich Zerg. Nidus Worm in the main base gets denied immediately. Look at Clem. His APM is going up. This isn't even his final form. Oh. Medivacs! Alright. Fun fact. This ghost skin, as we do have another Nidus attempt. This ghost skin has a 1 in 100 chance to spawn Nova. So it's a, it's the same unit obviously, but it is a version of this ghost that does not have a helmet. We've seen one recently. We'll have to keep an eye out. If there's enough ghosts, there's a chance that we're gonna get Nova. Okay. I mean, Rogue is still alive here. He's got a good economy, and this is not a map where, from this position, it's an easy one for Clem to close out. Although, he is dealing a lot of damage with the Ghost, though. The snipes are not bad. The Nidus network has indeed gone up now. So there's a bit of an infestation inside of the natural expansion for Clem. I'm surprised Clem did not address this a little sooner. He was probably hoping to get a choke on this base. Now look at this, man. This is so cursed. This base is being mined by both sides at the same time. Another Nidus Worm in the middle of the map. Lurkers have forced the lift off. And this could be the beginning of a proper comeback here. Ultimately, the Terran army comes back home, but this positioning here is not well handled by the Terran player. Zergling run by in the meantime at the bottom of the map. Nidus Worm is going to be able to, yeah, give a way for those lurkers to go back home over here too. He's getting an opportunity to go after the planetary fortress. No cancel on that CC. Looks like the links at the bottom of the map have been cleaned up, but Rogue is already out again. Still occupying this section of the map, and every time we see units going down the ramp, they die. This actually has been a really lovely spot here by Rogue. Second Nidus network coming right up. Overseers are coming. We already have 7. 9 more Overlords on the production tab. We're building Overseers. Okay, it's happening. Let's see. So far, Clem is clearly not dealing with the Nidus Worm as perfectly as he could have. He shut down the first 3 or 4 of them. But the follow-up here is quite smooth for Rogue. He's very much so relying on the Terran player making a mistake. But so far, I mean, Clem is still not cleaning up that worker, or like this mineral line over here, so his workers can get back to mining. Finding it quite difficult, apparently, to deal with those. He finally gets a kill on the hatch, but I mean, this is like the least important base that Rogue has. He can just retake this position. Okay, so we have 8 Overseers right now. That's not quite enough yet. He's making 4 more. Yeah, so usually he seems to turn literally every single one of his overlords. And he usually makes extra overlords just to do this, but he moves like 40 or so overlords into overseers, and then he sends them all around the map. He drops changelings everywhere, and he just keeps on sending them to every single nook and cranny of the Terran base. And the idea is that you get vision in the main base, for example, with a changeling to pop down one of those cheeky Nidus worms. Look at this. He's sieging up all of the overseers here to try and make it difficult for the ghosts to actually target fire down all of the lurkers. Because obviously if you hover your mouse over the overseer and you snipe that unit down instead, that is a trait that a rogue will be more than happy to make if it saves him a lurker instead. Once more, Nidus Worm unloads. The ghosts are choked up here. Suboptimal. Okay, finally they managed to get a decent engagement, but you can see that without the Liberators, it's quite tricky here for Clem to get rid of all of these units. Okay, and what was previously looking like a pretty terrible situation for Rogue is now actually looking like a situation where he's winning the game. On Dynasty of all maps. Is the Overseer accidentally the best late game unit that Zerg has? I never really considered Overseers and Nidus Worms to go hand in hand. Like, sometimes we see an Overseer going around the map, or quite frequently we see an Overseer going around the map to provide vision. Right, and then you drop down a worm and that's it. But... I find this very curious. Look, he's found a little angle here. In between the siege tanks. The siege tanks are the goalpost, though. Apparently it's okay. This tank over here had vision. Fight over here at the bottom of the map. Ay. I think he's actually trying... Yeah, he's actually getting to a point where he's getting back into this. Another Nidus Worm goes down. What I love about this, though, is that it feels so swarmy, right? Like, this is not a cookie cutter all-in or something that is very easily executed. No, he's swarming the entire map, and he's going all over the place, trying to be, yeah, where the Terran is not. More changelings, once again, moving towards the main. Reinforcing Terran units coming up. I mean, these ghosts are still dealing a lot of damage, though, but... I also feel like we haven't quite yet reached, like, the limit as far as this goes. Like, one thing that you can do with Overseers that we rarely see being used is contamination. I wonder if there is a chance where, like, initially you play like this, right? You get the advantage, and then you save up energy on the Overseers, and then you freaking contaminate every single one of the structures and shut down their production for, like, a minute. Is that possible? I feel like it's possible. That's just quick thinking. Obviously, there's a lot more options that you have at your disposal. But I really do feel like the Overseer is one of those units that has not really been maximized yet, right? Like, Marines are maximized. I don't think there's a whole lot more juice you can get out of Marines. The same can be said for siege tanks and maybe for, like, lurkers. But the Overseer and Nidus Worms, I think there's probably room for improvement there. Currently, we see Rogue using all of his energy on changelings exclusively, and it works well. Ish. Well-ish. Oh my god. Looks like he managed to get the worm down eventually. But maybe what I'm saying is there is an opportunity for him to do some more. Oh my god, dude, this ramp has been absolutely killer for Clem. The lurkers over here, the lurkers in the main base. Yeah, this is game. Incredible. GG. I'm trying to think what the best way for Terran is to counter mass changeling. There is no easy way. There is no easy way to counter mass changeling. As strange as it sounds, there is no obvious counter. You want to right-click the units and try to take them down, but that's fine when there's 2 of them, 3 of them, 4 of them. What if there's 40 of them? Very difficult to get rid of every single one of them. And then as soon as one slips through the cracks, Rogue will put down a Nidus network. It is interesting to me how Zerg has been consistently getting nerfed ever since like 2018. Which also happens to be the time when Serral started winning literally everything. Like, Zerg has gotten significantly weaker over the last 6 years. And every single time they get knocked down, they come up with something new. It's kind of fascinating, really. Yeah, Serral is single-handedly the reason why Zerg got nerfed a bunch of times, for sure. It's a little bit more difficult to really attribute any of those nerfs to him specifically, as we have a 3-minute 25 lair before link speed. So we have to keep an eye on exactly what Rogue does here. Like, for example, the Queens used to be significantly better. They could transfuse off creep, they had additional range. Overall, they were just a much stronger unit. The Baneling had 5 additional hit points, and a lot of little things. Ultimately, though, it was because Zerg was winning, you know, too many tournaments, which is fair enough. Rogue is going Roachwarren right now in Evo Chamber, too. Now, it's interesting. It's very interesting to me. How have we never seen this before? 14 years of competition, and we, for the very first time now, finally see... Why did we make an Evo Chamber? What is this? What are we doing? Is this a Nidus all-in? This looks like a Nidus all-in. So he briefly started up... What? Is this an Overlord drop? He does realize that we do not need an Evolution Chamber to go for Overlord speed, right? Once upon a time, wasn't there a patch in the past where you needed to have an Evo Chamber in order to make a drop alert? Does Rogue think we're still on that patch? The Evo Chamber actually would throw Clem way off, though, because Clem obviously knows that you don't need it. He hasn't seen it. I think he doesn't realize that you don't actually need the Evo Chamber to do... The Evo Chamber does nothing here. Maybe he wanted to play something else, or maybe he's just not aware of that change. I'm pretty sure it got changed. I'm not exactly sure on the old patch anymore, but it's been a little while. Anyways. That patch was years ago, though. Long before he went to the military. I think. Anyways, I'm not even sure. I would have to look up on Liquipedia, I guess. So we have 2 queens inside of a plane. They have a little private jet over here. Brenda and Karen are going shopping. Turns out they're going shopping at the Terran Mall. There is, by the way, not a ton of economy here for Clem either. He's actually just going to double down here. There's no way you're going to break that, Rogue. 0% chance. Triple command center for Clem, so his income... I want to say economy and income at the same time. His income... His econ is pretty good. Yeah, Zergs are not welcome at the Terran Mall. So ultimately, Brenda and Karen are going for a little bit of creep spread. Yeah. That's what I do as well whenever I am not allowed to enter the mall. I start pooping right outside. In retaliation. It's the best thing you can do. Yeah, highly recommend it. It actually is kind of annoying though, because Clem can't break out of his natural. Well, I mean, this is an ambitious orbital command pilot over here. Don't tell me you're gonna transfer SCVs over to creep. We just did. Okay. Clem, I think this is unnecessarily risky, but he knows he needs to break out at his base. He doesn't really know exactly how much economy there is, right? So in the meantime, Rogue has been droning up that base. I'm assuming the SCVs are gonna get a little bit of a work bonus for this. Because this is certainly not the safest area. Yeah. Actually gets the work done. So, this has turned into a glorified creep spread attack. Where we're now spreading the creep backwards. Yeah, normally you spread the creep from your natural to the opponent's natural. But now apparently we're spreading the creep from the opponent's natural back to his own natural. Clem is actually kind of struggling though. This is not a super uncommon style from Zerg. We see this every once in a while. Clem had all of the tools at his disposal to deal with it, but it's not been the smoothest of defense. Although he hasn't really lost a ton yet. Got a feeling we're like one set of corrosive balls away from this being an absolute disaster. It's really difficult for Terran to know how much economy is on the back of all of this. So he needs to make these decisions that he otherwise would not really want to make. He did send out 2 Reapers actually for scouting, but oh my lord, okay. Just like that, Clem cannot hold on to the base and he decides to tap out. The Overlord's Mutate Ventral Sacs upgrade now requires a lair instead of an evolution chamber. So this was back... Oh, does it not give me... Oh, there we go. This was back on the 19th of March, 2018. I think it was just a mistake. Maybe you wanted to play something else in the previous game. But, okay. They did change that. I was gonna say, that's like 2 years ago. 2018. Yeah, that's like 2 years ago. Give or take. Next up, we find ourselves on Alcyone. Now, all jokes aside, Rogue did mean business in that previous game. He may be known as a bit of a late-game maniac, but there's no denying that in that previous game, he decided to flip the script entirely. Most players are categorized, right, as a macro player, or a cheese player, or, I don't know, a cannon rusher, right? You know who you are. Rogue is a little bit of everything. He's been playing this game for such a long time that he apparently has been able to play every style as well. But there's no denying that Rogue is a very flexible player. Like, he does his Zerg yoga every day. Clem is not nearly as flexible in my mind. Clem is very much so a macro Terran who likes to do the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. With small deviations, right? A little bit of a Hellion instead of like, I don't know, like sometimes mixing a Cyclone, sometimes maybe we go for like a Widowmine drop against Zerg, right? When we're feeling really crazy. But ultimately, it's all like the same thing. Rogue also, broadly speaking, I want to say like probably 80% of the time does the same builds. Or at least roughly the same builds. But with a lot more variation than what Terran is really capable of. But then sometimes he just does these crazy all-ins. Rarely do we see Clem go for like proxy barracks these days, or like anything like a Blue Flame Hellion all-in, or anything wild like that. Obviously, it's been working for him. I mean, he's the world champion of StarCraft for a reason. If you play the game better in a quote-unquote like standard game, it's obviously it's obviously a very good spot to be in. But that is not as easily said as done. What? That is... Anyways, did I just reverse that? That is not as easily said as done. There you go. Sure, that works. Anyways, Roachborn once again coming up right here for Rogue. So, game number 1, we go Massling Bane. Then we messed around with some Roach openers into, like, Mass Lurker. With a lot of Overseers and then a lot of Nidus Worms. Now we're going into our Roach build once more, and then a pretty fast lair. I mean, this is 420. Not too quick, but a bit quicker than what he did in the previous game. Or the previous games, rather, where he opened up quick triple hatch. Obviously, in game 3, nice grenade. Sorry, Branda. Didn't mean to hurt you. Well, actually, he didn't mean to hurt her. Yeah. Didn't mean to make you cry, but tonight I'm roasting all the Zerglings. One more time. Oh! I said I'm sorry, Branda. Really, we're gonna morph in a couple of Hellbats right now. Queens are totally okay, though, with dealing all of this. Yeah, the Queens will 100% clean this up. Overseer trying to go around the site? Yeah. Not really a flying start right here for Clem. Like, yes, he killed a Queen and all that, but he hasn't killed a ton of drones here, and it's not been free aggression for him. This is also relatively late, right? So in the previous game, we We did see one of the Reapers kill a queen early on. That was not quite the same timing in the game. Like, when you're already up to this point, when you already have, like, 8 queens, it's much easier to lose one. Oh, lovely little wraparound. Hellion getting the same treatment, though, as that Reaper from earlier. Everything gets looped up in Clem's base. Yeah. It is what it is. What happens in Clem's base stays in Clem's base. We don't talk about it too much, because it might be awkward. Obviously, this has also been a relatively early armory. So the armory is gonna slow everything down just a tad. Obviously, you need an armory eventually. But it does slow down the extra upgrades here, so 1-1 is not quite as quick. It's now timed together with that of the Zerg. Infestation Pit here is gonna allow him a pre-7-minute hive. And I think that's where we are headed. Cheeky little Overlord here, trying to be annoying. Overlord sacrifices its life. Clem is gonna have to be moving this over. Ooh, Zerg can get a wraparound? Dude, Rogue is not messing around anymore. Those little run-bys with the Zerglings are like comfort run-bys, right? Like, he only ever will make those moves when he feels like he's got a very good grasp on the game. Just swooped in, kills the siege tank, runs away again, forces all the Hellions to go back home. Well worth it right there for the Zerg player, who's in the meantime now going into a hive. Very fast hive. Hydra Den 2, I'm assuming we're going to see a Lurker Den. Okay. Now, this is obviously a very playable spot, though, here for Clem. Don't want to overhype the situation here for the Zerg. He's going second factory right now. I'm assuming we're going to be seeing a 4th command center here momentarily. Banshees will ultimately go down, but that's okay. 4th command center should go down momentarily. Where's that second factory? It's in the natural. +2/+2. At least he hasn't forgotten the armory, because he built it very early. So he should be able to go smoothly into 2-2. And then, yep, we get ourselves that 4th command center planted down as well. There's the Lurker Den. 2-2. Hydra ranged. 2-2 as well for Terran. Okay. It's just that the momentum is a little bit less in favor right now of Clem. In the previous games, we saw him more in the driver's seat at this stage in the match. Right now, I would say that things are slightly in favor of Rogue. But this is still quite a tricky spot in the match, though, because Rogue has made a lot of investments into things that aren't quite kicked in yet. So there's about 1,000 minerals and about 1,000 gas that is not in unit production right now, and Clem is going to see if he can maybe take a little slice of that. At least he got rid of some of the creep. Maybe he's going to be able to kill this base at the bottom of the map, too. And this is nice, though, because Rogue needs a lot of gas. Rogue cannot really play this strategy without the Vespene. Now, this was base number 5, so he will still have 8 gases. 8 gases, like the bare minimum. But it's good enough. So, the gases over here are the most important ones. 4th command center. Gonna be sending that one apparently on over towards the left. Ghost Academy coming up right now. Barracks 6, 7, and 8 inside of the main base 2. These are gonna get tech labs on themselves. So we end up with 4 barracks with tech labs and then 4 that have reactors. No, we have 5 that... Oh no, it is 4 that have the reactors. I was gonna say, that's crazy. No, we do have enough indeed. So usually end up with a 4-4. Looks like he got another kill right over here on the other side of the map. I shouldn't have doubted Clem there for a second. Embarrassing. Alright, so ultimately, Rogue is gonna finish up once more his beloved Lurker Den with the upgrades. So, how many Overseers are we gonna make? I think you max out first, right? I think these are still more or less just Detector Overlords. Well, there's the Nidus Worm already coming. How many OVs do we have at this point? 20, okay. Yeah, I think he maxes out first. And then he goes into like mass Overseer production. So it's mass Lurker, mass Overseer, mass Nidus Worm. That's essentially what it comes down to. Yep, he's already preparing more OVs. So those Laser overlords that we have been making fun of for years, Laser finally managed to get a grip on all of that. This is now Rogue doing it on purpose. Which is kind of a mess. Maybe Laser was accidentally 5 years ahead of the meta, dude. Laser has had this thing in his games where he accidentally keeps making overlords. So he can be maxed out for 20 minutes and he keeps making more overlords. This is like a bit of muscle memory that's very difficult to break when it's, once it's there. Ultimately, the brain wants to autopilot. The brain is good, but sometimes a little foolish. But he's actually making additional overlords now, so he's got 26 of them. I almost wonder if that's how this started. Like, I wonder if Rogue at some point accidentally found himself in a game where he just had a lot of overlords, so he's like, you know what? Sure. Nidus Worm number 2 and 3 coming up, by the way. So this is triple Nidus. There come the Overseers. Yeah, I wonder if there's a game where Rogue accidentally made too many Ovies and he's like, you know what? Let's give this a shot. Accidentally rapid fired about 24 Overseers. See how it goes. It's the scientific approach. So we have Nidus Worms right now positioned on the creep. Everywhere. Look at this. We're just doing a little bit of mobility, man. We're creating like a teleportation method here for the swarm. Look at this. So he killed most of the changelings, but one of them slipped through the cracks. So Clem was really fast dealing with all of those, but he is not prepared to deal with this one. So for Clem, by the way, he doesn't see that progression bar. He does not see. The only thing he sees is that there's a Marine moving here that he did not move himself. And I guess the odds of one of the Marines making it across, it just is much bigger when you have 17 Overseers dropping changelings. There's the Nidus once more going up inside of the main base. I wonder if a lot of this is solvable with better SimCity for Terran. Like, it might be worth changing up the positioning of that barracks on the high ground. That one's been there ever since the early game. I wonder if we need more maneuverability here. Like, we have a lot of empty space in the main base too that makes this easier to do for the Zerg. Because ultimately the SimCity right there is working against Clem quite badly. This time around though, Rogue didn't really get much. That was quite a few lurkers going down. And obviously the Nidus Worm is not free. Clem actually handled that one quite well. But that's another thing, right? I don't think the positioning right there of the Nidus Worm and the lurkers was optimal. I think Rogue probably should scoot closer to the ramp. I'm not sure. I'm just guessing here, but I think you should probably have the lurkers burrowed within range of the ramp. So burrowing them over here would be more optimal. I don't think we've quite seen maximum use of this strategy yet. So here we go again. Every single one of those Marines has to be individually clicked. And if anything, this is a lot of APM waste for Terran. Like, if anything, this is shutting down drops. That's like 100 actions wasted on something that is not really helping out Terran in any way. Interesting. So this now very much so, though, has been Clem allowing Rogue to get to this point. He didn't need to play the game like this. Like, he didn't need to do it like this. But he is saying, yo, we're gonna do this again, see how it goes this time around. Oh my god, okay. I think if you would have told me like 2 weeks ago that apparently the counter to late game Terran is Overseers, I would have laughed in your face. It makes no sense. Fascinating. More Nidus is going up. The problem is when you have 2 or 3 Nidus Worms here, right? So 3 Nidus in total. You need a lot of units left behind to deal with those units. So right now, Clem is recognizing that he can't hold on. There's only a few lurkers in here this time around. Not even that many, but he's gonna... Okay, we've got more. But the fight over here at the front is the more terrifying ones. Look at this. How do you snipe this? There's how many lurkers here? You would have to zoom in and then turn around the camera to actually get a hit right now with the ghosts. Those ghosts are perfectly, or those lurkers rather, are perfectly protected. Clem doesn't have the time to scroll in and tilt the camera. It's not... Okay, he's actually sniping the overseers now. I'm assuming he was meaning to snipe all of the lurkers there instead. More changelings going in, there's a whole train of them. Hiding a couple, leaving a few of them behind. You could even hold position the changelings on the ramp. Yeah, exactly. I mean, these aren't hold positioned, but you can effectively make Zerg force fields. Make it impossible for some of those units to go down the ramp. Honestly, there's a lot more to do with this. There's a lot more options available. And when's the last time we've seen Clem now go around the map with a medevac drop? Seriously. He's been busy putting out fires at home. His APM is very high, but he's not finding an opportunity right now. This is filthy, man. Changelings being used in the middle of this fight too. If anything, right, like, even in these engagements, this can be incredibly annoying for Clem, because you kind of, like, you look at the screen and you decide how the fight is gonna go in, like, a tenth of a second, right? Yeah, like, you look at the amount of units that you have, how many the opponent has, and then you decide, okay, I can take this fight. But when half of your freaking units that you glance at the screen at, right, are changelings, how do you decide how many army units you actually have? You have to take into consideration here how many of your units are actually not your units. Oh my lord, okay, well that was bound to happen, and with those units going down, GG gets cold. It's Rogue who shuts down Clem 3-1. And honestly, this last game, it felt like Rogue was taking the Lurker, Viper, Overseer strategy one step further. Insane.